Hey guys, this is PlantGenius. So today I'm going to be talking a little bit about the difference between growing your soil outdoors and actually like creating the soils for your plants indoors. And you can create your soils for both, but I want to kind of go over like why you have to kind of like go through like them kind of differently because it's a different environment internally and externally, outside and indoors. So you have to kind of like do that a little differently than you would for each. So let's go over it a little bit. So with indoors, when you want to think about creating your own soil or just the type of soil you want to use, you want to have the soil have good aeration. It has a good, well, let's start over why. So, aeration because the roots need to breathe, right? So, in the outdoor sense, you wouldn't have to worry about aeration as much, even though it's still important, because the organisms and the live things inside the soil they start to churn and create the soil for you. So, like they create that aeration and moisture and all those properties that the plants need inside. I mean, outside. But indoors, you lack that because first, when you're growing in pots, you're growing in a smaller and contained space. So that's left microorganisms and things out that's like outside to actually help to create that aeration indoors. But also at the same time, the environment is not the same inside as it is outside. So like it's a completely different situation. And with aeration, aeration is important because roots need to breathe so they can use the water that's in the soil to take it to the plant because if there's too much like water inside the soil, that's where you get root rot because there's no oxygen and therefore the roots die. And then the roots can't take up water to your plants. And water is like the lifeblood of the plant. It's the most important thing that the plant needs, right? And then with moisture, plants need moisture, they need water. If they don't have water, they won't be firm and they won't be able to do the processes like photosynthesis or use transpiration, which allows the plants to be firm but also move water in and out of its cells. You want your plant to grow. And the nutrients is, well, the plants need nutrients to grow, but you don't want it to be a fast breakdown. You want it to be a slow release. Because when you have like too many organic compounds and it's too warm and moist, then the organic compounds will start to break down really fast. And not only are the nutrients all over the place, but again, you'll be inviting like things like gnats and stuff like that. And you don't want that, right? Because they're attracted to things that are breaking down fast. And that's why you normally see them outside and stuff like that, because it'll be warmer and it's more organic matter. And it's not to say you don't want organic matter in your soil, but you want to make sure you have things that'll release a little slower. So then, your plant's getting a slow release, so it's consistent. Because again, the most important things for indoor plants is consistency compared to outdoors. They rely on consistency because again, they're not connected in the soil system like the plants are outside. They're in pots, so they need to be more consistent so they can survive. So when you have something that's releasing nutrients slow, now they get a consistent uptake of nutrients, and then they can grow more efficiently, more effectively. So again, it's kind of like what type of environment are you creating for your plant, and then also how you're maintaining it for it so it can actually grow. So let's go over what type of things you put in your soil. So you would want like stuff like peat moss and coco coir because they are very like light and like more airy materials, and they also retain water really well, right? And then for the aeration and things like that, you want to add something like perlite or cocoa or orchid chips because the orchid chips will create like air gaps pretty much in the soil. And same with the perlite because the perlite is very like airy, so it'll help air to flow in there and also a little bit with water retention too. Um, and then worm castings, that'll be like that slow release. So when you add like a little bit of worm casting in there, over time the water and the microorganisms in the soil will actually start to break it down and then release it into the soil so the plants can actually take it. So again, like when you see like these types of mix, this is the type of mix that you want and like in your soil. And obviously, like sometimes like orchid chips, there are soil mix, but not all organic mixes have orchid chips. So you can like take some and like kind of mix them and make it how you want to, pretty much. And then for outdoors is a little different because more than you trying to manage the soil yourself, you're actually just trying to grow it and build off of what's already there. Because again, like the natural environment will already naturally develop the soil the more you kind of add to it. So like that's why instead of like, try to make it, you more so steward it and grow it. So you would add things like mulch and compost. And you can still kind of add perlite, but perlite's not necessarily the best for outdoors just because it can blow away. But if you mix it in well and you have the right like amounts into your soil, it should be fine. Because perlite is still organic. So again, yeah, you just add mulch for like that organic aspect as well as compost. But compost is more for the nutrients and organic aspect, and mulch is more so to cover it and keep the soil covered. Because when the soil is covered, it'll help to protect the microorganisms in the soil, so they can actually slowly break that down and not only help the soil retain moisture, but it'll also feed the organisms too, as well as the compost. But the compost is more so for that slow nutrient release in the soil. So again, like the difference between indoors is like you manage the soil, so you're creating a system for yourself for your plants to survive. Because again, it's different outdoors than it is indoor. You have to be on a schedule for your plants. You have to make sure they have the right conditions, the temperature's right, the moisture's right, all that things, right? But outdoors, it's different. Nature takes care of that. So all you gotta do is make sure that you supply nature with everything it needs. So cover and then compost and then aeration and moisture and all those things will be like created and developed as you develop the soil and add to it depending on its needs pretty much. So again, it's managing your soil compared to growing it. So I hope that diagram kind of, well, I hope that kind of made sense. I know I didn't really have a diagram to kind of show you like, soil structure, but again, like when you're managing your soil, the soil structure will kind of be like poration, pores, so air can flow through. Then also like material that is able to retain water, so the roots can get water, but also they can breathe. And then it's a structure so the water can drain out because you don't want water to like stay and hold into your pot for too long, because if it does, it'll start to like break down your roots and start to make cause root rot to happen. So that's why you want aeration, so water sticks but doesn't stay, if that makes sense. And then for outdoors, you more so want to develop the soil because the soil is going to need organic compounds that also need to be covered so it can maintain its moisture. And the microorganisms and all the things living inside the soil will also do all the work for you, but you just have to make sure you're supplying it. So again, that's the difference why indoors you're managing your soil, but outdoors you're growing it, if that makes sense. So I thank you guys for watching. And again, if you guys need any tips or need help with, soils, understanding your plants, anything of that sort, just let me know. And remember, I may be a plant genius, but you can be a plant genius too. So I thank you guys for watching, and peace.